SASE Session 3. I am your ever-loving host, Ryan Graven, and I am back in the office, ladies and gentlemen. I know this is a big day for a lot of.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. So here at Matrix, we're always reevaluating kind of the newest solutions on the market when it comes to SD-WAN. With voice being such a large part of what we do, now cloud-hosted voice, having a SD-WAN solution to enable really high voice quality has always been really important for us. So with that, we are very early adopters of SD-WAN solutions. However, those early solutions oftentimes did leave the security piece out, right? There's kind of these pure play, SD-WAN multi-pathing solutions to where oftentimes we had to maintain a firewall in the environments or use a kind of third-party cloud firewall to achieve that security. And it did work well, but oftentimes we're trying to get away from MPLS and kind of these backhaul architectures, private connectivity, to where oftentimes you still had to maintain a piece of that architecture with kind of the first generation solution. So in our always reevaluating solutions, we came across CATO several years ago. And as soon as we look at the architecture, it just made perfect sense, right? It had all that cloud egress, right? All their POPs and points of presence. And then the security was just baked in, right? Of course, this was before Gartner coined the term SASE. CATO was already kind of seen the writing on the wall, right? And came with that solution to where we kind of see everybody else is now kind of chasing their tail in terms of trying to replicate that cloud POPs and kind of single pass architecture. So like I said, as soon as we evaluated CATO, we brought them on as part of our portfolio, and like Ryan said, really feel that it is the right architecture for really most of our clients, at least anybody that's cloudy, which of course we've seen the steady march of all the applications leaving our data centers, being more SaaS and IaaS, and of course we see that with voice, right? So for all of those different reasons, again, CATO just made a ton of sense. So very happy to have them here today to explain to you what the architecture looks like and why we're so excited about it.
But we're not here to talk about Matrix. We are here to talk about CATO Networks, and with me today is Eyal Webber-Zvik, which I'm 100% sure I nailed. And he is the Vice President of Product Marketing for CATO. And I'm so excited to have you present today. The floor is yours. Cheers.
Thank you. So let me start with sharing my screen. I'm very happy to be here. Can you all see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, great. So my name is Eyal. I run product marketing here at CATO Networks. I've been with the company for almost 6 years from the very beginning. And for the first 3 years, I actually ran the product management organization in the company. I took the product from stealth to GA and to maturity. And then I switched to a marketing role. But that gives me the ability to both show you slides as well as a live demo, which I think would be very interesting. So I'm going to dive straight in. And for those who don't know CATO, I'm going to speak very, very briefly about the company. We have two very significant founders and leaders in the company. Shlomo Kramer was the co-founder of Checkpoint Software. He actually invented the first network firewall. And later on, he also was a founding investor in Palo Alto Networks. And then he co-founded and led Imperva, which was the first web application firewall. And his partner in crime, Gur Schatz, was the founder of Incapsula, which was the first cloud anti-DDoS solution. So there's a combined experience and leadership across different areas of cloud networking and network security. And together, we've raised a significant sum of funding from leading VCs. And since we launched the service back in summer of 2016, we already have over 900 enterprise customers from all over the world, over 11,000 branches and cloud instances on the service, and more than 250,000 remote users on the service. And actually, that specific number around remote users is very interesting, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. But before I'm going to speak about our solution and show you our solution in a live demo, there is a paradigm shift in the industry. Gartner are saying this very nicely, but I think everybody feels today that it's not anymore about performance and features. We don't care anymore about buying the biggest appliance with the biggest list of features on this 20 pages data sheet. We care about running IT in a fast, efficient, cost-effective, flexible, and dynamic manner in a way that would help IT leaders and IT teams support businesses that undergo digital transformation. Digital transformation means you have to move very fast. The market landscape is very dynamic, and you always have to move and adjust. And if your security is built on point products and appliances, you just can't move as fast as you need to. So the focus now is shifting from performance and features, from the what to operational simplicity, reliability, and flexibility, to the how the IT are managing the network and network security. And the solution to that is SASE. I know you spoke a lot about it, but I do want to highlight that the key word in SASE is convergence, is making the network and the network security part of IT one, and not doing it through an integration, but through convergence. And convergence means that it's one product and not an integration of multiple products. And I'll show you some examples where this is manifested and where this comes to value. So we take pride in being the world's first SASE. We were SASE before Gartner thought about the term SASE. What I'll show you today and what I'll speak about was our vision from the get-go when the company was founded back in 2015 and when we launched the product in summer of 2016. We always was a converged solution that is cloud native, that was software that was built to run on the cloud, that software that was designed and the service that was designed to be available all over the world, and that from the beginning support all edges. When we released the service back in 2016, we already had the solution for remote access connectivity. Excuse me. It was not an afterthought or a feature that was added later due to the need for remote access in COVID-19. And this is what we do. We take all those point solutions that you used to consume as different products, sometimes from a single vendor, sometimes from multiple vendors, and have a great partner like Matrix integrate and manage them for you. Instead of that, everything moves up to the cloud as a converged network and security software stack. And I'm going to explain how the service looks. I'll start at a high level and then I'll go into more details. At a very simple kind of level, what you need to do in order to use CATO is first to connect to our cloud. You'll connect your physical sites like headquarters and data center, your branch offices, your cloud data centers, your remote users, and even your SaaS applications and the internet. And over our cloud, you'll get end-to-end optimization for all those edges that connect to the cloud. And since we now become your de facto network and carry all your traffic east-west, northbound, and even inbound traffic, it's native and easy for us to apply enterprise-grade security as a service built in to our SASE cloud. And at the same time, we offer a flexible management model. Remember that when supporting a digital business or a business undergoing digital transformation, flexibility and speed are key parameters on which IT teams are measured by. And that means that you can leverage a great partner like Matrix to help you configure and manage your account. But if something needs to happen immediately and you don't even have a time to call Matrix for the support, you can always go in and do those configuration changes by yourself. And that's very meaningful for enterprises, for IT teams that need to move at the speed of light. And when I'm saying that we're a global cloud service, CATO today has almost 70 POPs worldwide. This is the most updated POP map. You can see our POP density in North America, in Europe, across the Asia Pacific, and we're now continuing to expand into Africa and to Latin America. These are all CATO-owned POPs. These are not virtual machines hosted on AWS or Azure. And that is very important. First, because our cloud has more POPs than any of the infra as a service providers. And second, because owning the cloud means that we control the destiny and the growth of our cloud. If we need to support an enterprise that is now opening a branch office or bought a company, a location where we don't have presence yet, for CATO, it's super easy to instantiate another POP in that location and deliver the service close to your employees and to your teams. Where if I was a SASE that is running off of AWS who have 28 POPs, I can wait sometimes 5 or 6 years to reach the point on the AWS POP roadmap where they would open a POP in the whereabouts that I need a POP at. So owning the cloud is key to being able to deliver a SASE solution that can adjust to the needs of the SASE subscribers. Now let me go into details about the solution architecture. All those POPs that you just saw on the map are all interconnected with multiple tier 1 backbone providers, all connected in a full mesh topology. So each POP has direct access to each other POP on the network. And those backbone transit links actually form our global private backbone. We have a private global carrier network that allows us to carry our customers' traffic over our private backbone instead of the public internet. This gives us the ability to guarantee a predictable network performance with high availability and self-healing capabilities, altogether delivering a 5.9 SLA on availability and performance, just like an MPLS network, but at a fraction of the cost. And as my friends here just said, Matrix are already moving customers from their MPLS networks to our SASE cloud. In each POP, we run multiple networking and security engines. On the networking engines, the most dominant one is our global route optimization and dynamic carrier selection. For each and every data packet that we need to carry from source to destination, that can be inside North America or from Singapore to California, we calculate the optimal and most reliable route in real time. This is how we guarantee the predictability and performance of the network. And this is the exact opposite of routing on the internet, which always favors whatever is cost effective to all the involved carrier in such a multinational traffic steering. So we always make sure that the network performs best to deliver the service. We've built in WAN optimization. So all those WAN optimization appliances that you used to have for your MPLS circuits are no longer needed. And we also optimize traffic to cloud destination. I'll even explain more on that and demo it live in a few more minutes. On the security side, we offer an enterprise-grade Layer 7 full DPI next-gen firewall, a secure web gateway, the ability to do full or selective TLS decryption, and advanced threat prevention. I'll go into more details on our security specifically, so you'll see the inner parts of those engines and how they work and how they are different when delivered as a service compared to getting them from physical appliances. So in order to connect to our cloud, there are multiple options. If you're looking at branch offices or data centers, the best solution is to use our Edge SD-WAN device, what we call the CATO socket, which does everything every other SD-WAN player in the market can do today. All those technologies are completely table stakes, aggregating multiple circuits in active manner, doing dynamic path selection based on the condition of the underlying carrier, quality of service, and overcoming packet loss. But I will make an asterisk on quality of service and pause here just to explain or give an example on the difference between convergence and integration. Many of the people that I speak with, they tell me, look, you're telling a great story about CATO, but I can get network and security, for example, by combining an SD-WAN from VMware VeloCloud and a secure web gateway from Zscaler, which is a very popular and common combination. But there is a big gap here because users, which in the SASE world are the center of the enterprise, this is the most important thing that we build everything around, users and their access to applications. In security product lines and security companies, user awareness is always a native part of the solution. There isn't any firewall in the market that doesn't tie into your Active Directory and knows how to set rules based on user identity. On the networking world, no product understands user awareness. They are all about applications and protocols. So all the SD-WAN vendors like VMware VeloCloud and others know how to do application level quality of service. They can prioritize voice over IP, like mentioned earlier, as a key application over any other application and make sure that it gets the proper priority across the network. But CATO, which convergence network and security, the capabilities from the two different domains are actually available across the board. So we can set quality of service rules not only based on application, but also based on identity to a degree that we can set a rule that says that voice over IP of sales has a higher priority than voice over IP of engineering or of operations, because we can't allow a sales call to drop or to suffer from quality issues. This is one example of convergence of network and security into one product. An integration of SD-WAN with a cloud security web gateway can't achieve this level of control, not to mention visibility from two different products to two different management consoles. So if you ever evaluate another SASE that is not CATO, which I hope you don't, but you might, this is one thing that you should look into and see if you can actually set network rules based on user identity. So I'll go back to explaining how the solution works. So there is a model for the branch offices. We have a bigger model for the data center. And if you still want to run some of the traffic over your MPLS or local Metro East circuits, that's also okay. You can connect them into our SD-WAN devices and set policy-based routing and control what traffic goes over the CATO backbone and what goes over the local MPLS or Metro East circuits. But the interesting or the great thing here is that the combination of this last mile optimization with our edge SD-WAN capabilities and our global private backbone gives you the end-to-end optimization and reliable network that you used to get from MPLS, but at a fraction of the cost. And it works on a global scale, not only on a regional scale, because of this global private backbone. And by the way, if you don't care for last mile SD-WAN capabilities, you can also connect to our cloud over an IPsec tunnel from existing appliances like existing routers and next-gen firewalls. Another thing which I mentioned several times is our remote access solution. We call it SDP, software-defined perimeters, others call it ZTNA. It's the same technology. It's the ability to grant access to remote users to specific resources and not to entire networks like legacy VPN solutions. And as I said, with CATO, this was something that was part of our solution from the get-go and not an afterthought. And as a result, we already have more than 250,000 remote users on the service. Out of those remote users, we have on average between 80 to 90,000 remote users connected every minute across the world from all of our customers. And to connect from remote, all you have to do is either install the CATO client, which I would show you, or you can connect through a browser in a clientless manner. The service would automatically tie you into the nearest CATO POP. And from there, you would go through the same network optimization and the exact same security optimization. So what you're used to hear from users in the enterprise that complain that when they go home and work from remote, applications get laggy and you're worried that they're not secured enough because they don't go through your security stack, all those issues don't exist anymore in the CATO solution. Remote users are literally first-class citizens on the network, and they get the exact same network experience, application performance, and security like they used to get when they worked in the office. And obviously, that's not the end of the story. We also need to tie in our cloud data centers. That can be done in one of two ways, either with zero footprint by setting up an IPsec tunnel from the infra as a service transit gateway to the nearest CATO POP, and from there riding our cloud. And again, going through all the network capabilities and security capabilities like a physical site or a remote user, or you can instantiate a virtual socket inside your virtual private cloud or virtual network. One of the great things about our huge cloud footprint is that the CATO POPs are in the same physical data center facilities as the big cloud providers like AWS and Azure and Oracle and Google. And that means that the latency between CATO POP to your VPC or VNet is less than 5 millisecond round trip time. What it means for you is that you don't have to pay extra for private circuits like Direct Connect or Express Route in order to optimize and guarantee performance for your cloud DC traffic. It's already part of the service, and the WAN optimization that we have built into our stack improves performance even further. But not all our applications in cloud data centers. Some is also on software as a service and cloud applications. And for that, we also have a way to optimize access to those applications, even without having to integrate with any of them directly. Because we are the network, we can actually control, and you can actually control the routing across our backbone, also to cloud applications and to the internet. So for example, if you're a global organization like CATO, and our Salesforce data, our CRM for Salesforce is in Amsterdam, we have a rule on our own account. Of course, we use our service as well. We have a rule on our own account that regardless of where I'm getting on to the CATO cloud, if the traffic is Salesforce application, I would always come off of the CATO Amsterdam POP, which is in the same data center as Salesforce. The result is that all my Salesforce traffic goes through all the security inspection, and that I get an MPLS-like experience to my cloud applications because my access to the cloud application is going over my global private backbone instead of over the internet. So even CATO employees in North America or in the Asia Pacific down to Australia and New Zealand have a great Salesforce experience accessing data that is thousands, tens of thousands of miles away from them. And everything that I've just described, you get full visibility and control to. You have ability to configure policy, to access real-time and historical analytics and event. I'll show you some of that in the demo. And like I said, Matrix can help you manage your CATO account, but it doesn't come at the expense of your ability to log in, see things for yourself, do configuration work for yourself. We are all here together, CATO and Matrix, to give you the ability to become an IT team that is empowering business growth and digital transformation, rather than being an inhibitor of growth and success because of the complexity of your IT infrastructure. All right. So many vendors in the market today are riding the SASE buzz. Since Gartner coined the term back in summer of 2019, there's almost no vendor in the space of networking and security that doesn't tell some SASE story. And I do want to take this opportunity to highlight the 4 key critical requirements of a true SASE solution. And this is literally quoting Gartner, who made the definition. Every SASE solution to meet the SASE requirements has to be converged, cloud-based, global, and supports all edges. This is exactly what I showed you. Our software stack is a full convergence of network and security. It's not an integration of point solutions. It's not one product hosting a virtual machine of another product. It's a truly converged software that was built and designed to be that way. It's cloud-based, it's cloud-native. It was designed and built to run in the cloud as a cloud-native software. And a cloud-native software means that it is not an appliance converted to virtual machine hosted on AWS or on Azure or on Google Cloud, because virtual machines can't scale like cloud-native software. CATO can add capacity and compute power elastically without any downtime, without our customers noticing it, to meet the demand of our growing customer base and their network and security requirements. If it's appliance-based, even if it's virtual appliance-based, it's not cloud-native, and scaling is complex, it's slow, it involves downtime, and it's much more expensive. And we're global. We have the ability to serve any customer anywhere in the world, and we own a physical cloud that gives us the control of how we grow our cloud, where and when. And the last thing is, as I showed you, we support all edges. It can be users or devices in physical locations like office and data centers, remote users wherever they are, from home, commuting, on the road, anywhere in the world, cloud data centers and cloud application and the internet, all supported from one comprehensive service. And of course, when saying what is SASE, it's also important to say what isn't a SASE. So chaining point solutions, integrating or chaining a point SD-WAN solution with the secure web gateway is not convergence, and therefore it doesn't qualify as a SASE. A cloud security vendor that claims SASE but doesn't have their own SD-WAN solution is not a real SASE. We've seen Palo Alto acquire CloudGenix because their Prisma Access lacked the networking piece of their SASE offering. Right now, they're still integrating them, so it's not really converged, but they are in the right movement, or in the right direction at least. On-premise boxes, even if they do converge network and security, for example, like Fortinet or Versa Networks, are still relying on appliances and appliance delivery model. And on-premise boxes is not cloud. They can't solve a global case because you'll need to ship boxes everywhere. It doesn't scale. And therefore, it is also not a SASE. And last but not least, what we call a telco bundle. This great and wonderful promise that companies like AT&T and Verizon sell you, that say, look, we got you for the MPLS. We can also manage all those appliances for you in our cloud and put a big on-prem CPE and stack multiple virtual appliances in it and manage everything for you. This telco bundle is not converged, it's not true cloud, and it's definitely not a SASE.
Amen, Eyal. Hey, I just want to jump in and say thank you to everybody that's answering the poll questions. I did want to point out we had a majority of people that were not using the VPN solution for connectivity to applications. I'm curious, for those that aren't, why don't you answer in the chat box with what solution you currently are using, just out of curiosity, as you were, Eyal.
Okay, so I spoke a lot about SASE as a whole and CATO solution. I want to kind of zoom in into CATO's security as a service. One of the things that CATO does for our customer is not only replace their MPLS networks and deliver very advanced SD-WAN with a global private backbone, but we also replace their entire security stack. We displace Palo Altos and checkpoints and Cisco ASAs. And I have a lot of conversations with security leaders that ask me, how can you come? You're a relatively young company, only 6 years in the market. You have great founders and great leaders, and I'm sure you got great security engineers. But what can you do that would improve my security posture compared to those best of breed appliances that I have today? And to answer that, I want to show you the CATO Network Security as a Service part, and I'm going to go and zoom in step by step down to an IPS rule. And through that, you would understand where our power lies. So think about CATO as the network that stands between any user and any resource, whether it's an on-prem data center, user in the office, from home, accessing cloud or the internet. Everything goes and flows through our cloud. And in our cloud, we have two pieces. We have the muscles and the brain. So I'll start with the muscles. On the access control, we have our own next-gen firewall and secure web gateway. They're fully integrated. I'll show you that. That means that you can control access not only to the internet, like a classic secure web gateway, but also govern access on east-west traffic and inbound traffic as well. So it's a full firewall and SWG replacement. And it's all our technology. This is nothing that looks like a virtual machine of another vendor hosted on our cloud. And on the threat prevention, we have next-gen anti-malware, intrusion prevention, and the ability to do TLS decryption with unlimited compute power. This is the biggest pain point of appliances, right? We always worry that once we turn more and more features, eventually we'll reach the compute limitation of the appliance. It would start breaking, create a lot of packet loss, users would complain, and then we'll go back and disable the security features that we wanted. We paid for them, but we didn't have enough CPU to deliver them. So with CATO, because it's cloud delivery, everything is scalable and elastic. We never worry about compute power, like you never worry about storage and RAM when you use Office 365, like you used to do with on-prem Exchange. We do single point decryption and DPI, what Gartner calls single pass processing. It means that when a packet reaches a POP, it's decapsulated of the packet header, it's decrypted from the TLS inspection, and all the different engines of network and security look at it at once, and everybody tells each other what they see and identify, and then they make a shared verdict what needs to happen next. So for example, the next-gen firewall would identify the application. The SWG would say what URL category this belongs to. The IPS would say whether this has any malicious indicators or whether it looks like benign and a safe network transit. The SD-WAN would say what is the priority, and the backbone would say what is the optimal routing for this packet, and then it would continue in its journey. But the fact that everything is happening at once and all those different engines share context with each other gives the solution and the security side of the solution a lot of power. You'll see that in a minute. And everything that I'm describing is equally distributed across our entire global network, but with one central management for everything. So this is the muscles, and on top of the muscles, we have the brain. And very much like in the human body, where our brain tells the muscles what to do, the brain also gets feedback from the muscles on what they felt when they did what the brain told them. So it's a bidirectional relationship. And on the brain side, we source a lot of external threat intelligence feeds. We process them and we push them down to our entire cloud every 4 hours to make sure all our customers are always behind the latest and greatest reputation database. We also have our own security research teams, which maintain our own internal feeds and also creates and manages the entire IPS rules, the next-gen anti-malware engines to make sure that you're always behind the latest and greatest blocking power against security threats and attacks and vulnerabilities. But we take everything that those engines see when they actually process traffic, and we feed this back into our cloud scale big data. We don't need to store, and we don't store any of our customers' data, only the metadata of every flow that runs over our network. And on top of that, we run machine learning that gives us the ability to also provide a managed detection and response service to our customer. So the level of intelligence that we have is benefiting from a service-wide traffic visibility. We actually see all the traffic from all our customers, and machine learning help us make a lot of sense and understanding of analytics out of this huge amount of traffic. We also have a very rich context because all those different engines share information with each other. We know more about each and every network flow than any other alternative solution in the market. And I'm going to show you in more detail how this looks. I'll start zooming in and I'll start with the threat prevention model. When you speak about threat prevention, there's always a big question about what is your ability to stop unknown threats. The known threats are relatively easy because everybody knows how to identify them and therefore how to block them. But what do you do against unknown threats? So the first and foremost, or the first building block is to be able to do unlimited TLS decryption. 90% of internet traffic is encrypted. Most attackers and hackers and malware are using TLS encrypted traffic, HTTPS, to carry their payloads and malicious activity. So you have to decrypt all the network traffic in order to inspect it. We do that without any compute limitation. And then on the intrusion prevention side, we have the ability to block both known threats and unknown threats. So known threats easily blocked by sourcing reputation feeds. We have more than 200 different reputation feed sources that translate to about 5 million records on average that we know to block in real time. We know to identify network scanners. This is what attackers use in their intelligence gathering phase. And we, of course, create and publish signatures against known vulnerabilities. But the interesting part is actually the unknown threats. Here we have the ability to leverage our contextual understanding and machine learning algorithms to identify network activity that has a 99% potential of being malicious, to identify CNC communications of malware and ransomware, and to identify anomalous flows across the network in order to be able to block them, even though they don't fit into any of the cookbooks of indication of compromise of non-vulnerabilities. And on the malware prevention side, we offer a true file type detection, which means that we know what the file is regardless of what suffix was attached to it. If it's an executable with a JPEG suffix, we know it's an executable. And then we first run it through a signature-based anti-malware, which identifies known malware, and then through a machine learning-based anti-malware, what is called the next-gen anti-malware, that knows to identify zero-day and evasive malware. So the combination of those three, a true file type detection, signature-based anti-malware, and machine learning-based anti-malware, gives a stopping power that is equivalent to a sandbox, but it has the benefit of stopping malware at line speed. Sandbox inspects the files retrospectively after they already reached your network, and then an admin gets a notification that the network is compromised and they need to go and clean it. We can actually stop those zero-day and evasive malware on the network at wire speed. So I'm going to zoom a little bit more into the IPS, and then I'm going to switch to the demo. I know everybody is waiting for it. I'm taking IPS as an example of the difference between a point product that you need to manage and maintain and security delivered as a service. But you can replicate this to secure web gateways, to next-gen firewalls, to any security that you have in on-prem boxes. With IPS, the IPS vendor releases a new set of signatures on a daily basis. Someone from the IT or security team needs to go and manually download those signatures, choose the ones that are relevant to the specific network segment that you're securing, start them in detection mode, then make sure that it doesn't break the appliance because of performance, because they're too complex to compute, and also that it doesn't generate false positives. Only then move them to prevention mode, and then continue in this repetitive maintenance cycle. You should do it on a daily basis. No one has the manpower or the headaches to do it on a daily basis, so they end up with a very expensive IPS that does 10% of what it can and should do, and not actually giving the protection that is needed. In the CATO solution, we as the vendor of the IPS have a team that is dedicated to creating new signatures on a daily basis. We take those signatures and we validate them across all of CATO customers, those who use the IPS and those who don't, in order to make sure that the signatures are accurate and that they don't generate false positive. Performance is not an issue because we're true cloud. And then we move them into prevention mode. What do our customers need to do? Literally nothing. And our IPS is applied to your entire network and to traffic from all sources to all destinations and in all directions, not only to specific segments. So you have an IPS that is working at full power, that is always up to date, and that is covering the entire network. The security posture, just by using a cloud-delivered IPS like ours, is dramatically increased compared to the alternative solution. And I can tell you that with the SolarWinds attack disclosure by FireEye a few months back, once FireEye published the indications of compromise of the attack, within 12 hours, all of CATO customers were secured behind an updated signatures without having to do anything. By the time the first customer called us and said, what do you do about SolarWinds? We said, you're already behind a secured IPS signature. We were the first to market to secure this, when everybody else had to wait for the IPS vendors to publish the signatures and then go through this entire process. And the reason our IPS is so powerful goes back again to what I said about context. So usual IPSs look at only what is here in the known row. They also use reputation feeds, some identify network scanners, they do geo restrictions, and they inspect inbound traffic to specific network segments that are designed to secure. But CATO IPS sees all this flow metadata. We see the protocol and the source and destination IP, and the application, and the URL filter, and the user agent. We know so many things, and we can use that to create sophisticated signatures that can block unknown malware. For example, we know the application and the true file type detection, and we have mathematical models that tell us what is the popularity of a specific destination, whether other users across the entire CATO customer base are accessing it or not, and if they are accessing it, at what frequency, and whether it's a human pattern or a machine pattern. So many things give us the ability to make this sample IPS rule. So for example, a headless browser client, which is a client that doesn't identify itself as any of the common browser in a specific version, is trying to access a URL that is not yet classified, doesn't fall into any category. The target is also not popular. We haven't seen anyone else accessing it across all our customer base, and it's trying to download an executable file. Every one of those rules in isolation is not sufficient to identify a malicious traffic. But the combination of all four, there is no chance on earth that this traffic is benign. This is the power of the CATO IPS combined with its being fully managed and delivered as a service. So one last slide, and then I'll move to the demo. Customers often ask me, you say so many things and you show so many capabilities, but I only come for one thing. I just want to replace my MPLS, or I just want to get rid of all those firewall appliances from different versions, different vendors, and move security to the cloud. But you're trying to sell me much more than what I need. And we're actually not trying to do that. We're trying to say that when you look at SASE, you need to look at it as a strategy. SASE is something that is going to be with you for many years. You're going to start with the first project of SASE migration, and then you'll continue with the next one and the one after that. It means that instead of replacing or refreshing your firewall with yet another firewall, you should use this opportunity to move into SASE. And when you do this, you would get rid and save a lot of hidden costs that IT sometimes are unaware that exist. Let me explain this. If you look at your traditional network and security stack, you got the transport, you got your network security, cloud, and mobile, and their own management. And if I start breaking this down to the specific products, then you have multiple products on the network, multiple products on security, cloud, and mobile, and each one has their own management applications. And every time you need to replace or refresh them, you go through the process of going to Google, searching for vendors, reading Gartner articles, speaking with salespeople, doing evaluation, going through the procurement process, all this thing, and then integrating and maintaining it and troubleshooting. So much work. Where in a SASE world, if you start your journey with replacing MPLS, when you need to refresh your firewall, you throw the old out, you flip a switch, you use it from the SASE cloud. You start with the security, you need to refresh the network, you throw out MPLS, you flip a switch, you start using the network. You need to replace your VPN concentrator with zero trust network access, flip a switch, it's there. You don't have to go through this repetitive process every time, over and over again. You need to refresh any component in your network and security infrastructure. So I'm going to pause, drink some water, and then we'll go to the demo. Okay, so I'm going to stop screen sharing for just 1 minute.
I'll buy you some
And
time with
switch
some work from home polls.
Always good. Okay. So let me reshare my screen now. Okay, what you're seeing now is my demo account, so it's relatively empty, but this is how the management application of the CATO Cloud looks like. Everything is done from this application. Okay, you configure users, you connect sites, you set the security services and policies, and all the monitoring is done from one place. Remember convergence. And for example, if I want to add a new site, now I have a headquarters in the US and a branch in the UK. It's as simple as setting, let's say, this is my Singapore branch. The type is a branch. The end device is a socket. The country is Singapore. I have, let's say, one link of a symmetric 100, and let me give it a network range of 40.0.0/24. This is all I need to do to define a site on the platform. What I have to do next is to take this CATO socket device, ship it to this office, get on the phone with the first person that comes to the office, doesn't have to be someone with IT experience, and tell them, take the box, take the device out of the box, plug it into the power, take the yellow cable, put it in port number 1, gray cable in port number 2. The socket would automatically connect to the internet, phone home to our cloud service, and I would get a notification here that says a new socket is identified. To which site should I assign it? I will assign it to the Singapore branch, and in less than 10 minutes, literally, this site would be up and running from remote. This is the simplicity of adding new sites. And of course, I can do a lot of advanced configuration on this site, but this is just the basic to get a site connected. If I want to add the remote users, I can either integrate with my identity provider or Active Directory and invite users from there, or I can manually just add a user, first name, last name, and email. They would get an invite to a self-service portal, which would give them the ability with the B2C experience to onboard themselves independently to the service. We had customers during COVID-19 that sent thousands of those invitations overnight, went to sleep, woke up in the morning, helped the few people who didn't do it themselves, and onboarded more than 1,000 users in less than 24 hours to our ZTNA SDP solution. It's all about simplicity and moving very, very fast. And for each site, I can get a lot of analytics and metadata, historical and real time. If we have a bit more time, I'll show this on another environment because this is a demo one. I want to show you some of our security capabilities and how they look here. There are two firewalls, one for east-west traffic and one for internet traffic. So as you can see on the WAN firewall, I've set a rule here that allows access from my user, for my identity, to the headquarters, but is limited only to FTP traffic. Everything else is blocked. And I can very simply just add more rules. At the top of the list, for example, define the source. And the source can be anything. Everything is a logical object in the system. It can be a site, directory user, remote users, logical groups, specific hosts, IP addresses. Everything that can be defined as an object on the system can be applied. We can have rules applied to. So for example, I can say that I want the group of, let's say, HR, have access to the site, to a branch site, and then I can define the specific applications that I want to enable. There's a long list of the specific services and ports, what action I want taken, what tracking I want. I can limit it to working hours. I can do everything from a very simple interface. And I can do the same for internet traffic. I can set internet traffic rules like this one that says that I should not have access to social networks. So from my identity to social networks, traffic is blocked. And we can actually try this. So I can open a new tab here and try and go to LinkedIn, and it would work because right now I'm not on the service. So we can see LinkedIn loading. But let me close this and show you the CATO client. This is the CATO client. I'm going to connect right now, you'll see that this is happening very fast, even with multi-factor authentication. So let me have my phone standing by here. Okay. Something that many people won't do, and that is to move or turn on their SDP or VPN client during a live demo. And as you can see, nothing happened. But I am now running through the CATO networks. You can see that I'm connected to the TLV, to the Tel Aviv POP. And if I open LinkedIn now, my traffic is blocked because of the corporate policy. So what I just showed you is that the firewall that you use to control access with in physical location with an appliance-based solution is now a global cloud service that I just turned on my client, and I'm now behind the entire security stack. So that's just one example. Another thing I want to show you is how you turn on threat protection. It's literally flipping a switch, turn on anti-malware, next-gen anti-malware, IPS, and then just set the policy for the anti-malware, what to do with malicious file and suspicious files, and see that it works both for WAN traffic and internet traffic. IPS is applicable to WAN inbound and outbound traffic. This is capable of replacing physical security appliance with a cloud service. It's not a swig that only works towards the internet. It's not a CASB that only works towards cloud applications. This is a full network security for traffic in all directions. And one of the most important things when we speak about security is to do TLS inspection. So again, I turn TLS inspection on. I can decide who this should be applied to what destinations it should be applied, and I can apply exceptions. For example, if I want to respect the privacy of my employees, I would exclude banking and healthcare. So those are trusted destinations that I don't need to inspect their traffic. Nothing malicious would come from the Bank of America. And for some of you that may know, not all applications on the internet can have TLS inspection. There is technology called certificate pinning that is designed as one of many things to prevent TLS inspection, and you need to always exclude it. And with CATO, this list of trusted destinations of exclusion list is automatically maintained for you. And if I just open the documentation here, from within the same management application, I would get the page around trusted destination with the list at the bottom of all those applications that are automatically excluded. And this list, this exclusion list, is automatically maintained for you as a service. So this is one headache you don't need to worry about. So in the last few minutes that we have, I want to show you the networking side of things. We spoke about the security very much. In the networking thing, we have something that is called the networking rules. This is where you can define different quality of service classes. We call them priorities, P1, P10, P20. You can have up to 255. And then you can set different rules on what we should do with this traffic beyond prioritization. So for example, I can say that specific cloud applications would be routed, for example, through Amsterdam. And I want to show you an example of how this works, not with Office 365, but with a more simple example. I've set a rule that for myip.com, traffic would egress, take a notice, from Auckland, New Zealand. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to turn off my SDP client, and I'm going to open two browsers. One with what's my IP address, and you'll see that I'm coming off of Basic International. That's my ISP here, Tel Aviv, Israel. And another one would be myip.com that is also showing the same ISP in Israel. And now I'm going to go back to the CATO client. I'm going to turn it on again. See how many times I'm doing this during a live demo? Some would consider this borderline suicide. 2 more seconds. Now I'm connected, and now I'm going to open those websites again. I'll start with what's my IP address. You'll see that it's still in Tel Aviv, but it's coming from CATO Networks. Now it's coming not directly from my ISP, but through the CATO POP in Tel Aviv and egressing to the internet. So this traffic is coming from CATO Networks in Tel Aviv. And when I go to myip.com, you'll see that I'm now coming off New Zealand, because this is what I told the cloud to do. Still coming from CATO Networks, but it's coming from New Zealand. So what I actually did is that I told the CATO cloud that traffic to myip.com should get onto the CATO backbone here in Tel Aviv, ride over the private backbone, not the internet, all the way to New Zealand, and egress to myip.com from there. And this is why this website thinks that I'm coming out to the internet from a New Zealand IP address. And you can play with this and you can configure this to any application, to your UCaaS, to your SaaS, to Office 365, everything on the internet that needs optimization. And I didn't do anything to integrate directly with any of those applications. And as you saw, this also takes me through the entire security stack. So I benefit from both the networking and the security from one converged solution. So I'll stop here. We're almost at the end of the hour.